The people who dream and those people who dream big have a different kind of life than the people who don't dream.
If you do not do what you're doing right now well, your goal is just going to be a fancy desire, isn't it?
Whether it's fear or anxiety, whatever it may be, I believe that every single person who's going out to chase their dreams has those voices in their head. I think it's part of the human experience.
Stay strong, have faith, keep pushing through. I've said this before, and I'm living proof of it, is that on the other side of your struggle is something good. On your other side of your struggle is something better. On the other side of your struggle is some sort of success.
So I'm here to tell you today that you can have anything you want, be anyone you want, but you're gonna have to work.
See, dreams, aspirations, they're not easily attained. But one of the hardest things to do is to keep going, is to keep chasing.
All right, so now we are in the main discussion topic for this week's episode. Shout out to Brooke for joining me for the building and branding conversation earlier in the show. This is going to be a lot of informational content on this week's episode, but the thing that I want to talk about in the main discussion topic this week is the why wait mindset. And so you will find me and the reason why this kind of came to mind is that, for example, for me, and this is me letting you guys in on my life yet again. I open up so much sometimes on this podcast, but that's why I feel connected to you guys. But the reason why this started getting is that for a lot of you guys who follow me may know is that the anniversary of he's technically my cousin, but he's more like my little brother. We were raised together. Terrence was about a week ago at this point, a little over a week ago. And again, this is for people who follow me on social media, know that I make short films, I do photography, and I'm really planning to make that my full-time job. I'm building. And so as I'm doing this and getting better at it and doing great at it and getting booked for more weddings and jobs and XYZ, I woke up on that anniversary and I'm thinking, I really would just love to be able to do something that aligns more with my passions while I'm building my business and getting it to a place to where I can focus on my own business full time. And so I woke up and literally the thing on my mind was, well, why am I waiting? Why am I waiting for this to necessarily take off before I make steps in the direction to do it more professionally, because it brings me happiness? Yeah, working for somebody isn't always going to be in my goal, but I can find something that aligns more with my passions. I've been working in finance for goddamn 10 years at this point, and I'm great at it. I'm amazing at it. It pays the bills. I make a lot of great money, but it's no longer where my heart is. It's no longer where my passion is. The money doesn't keep me happy with it anymore. So I woke up with the thought, well, why am I waiting? And I started applying for other jobs that aligned more for it, and I got offered a few, some that I really have no experience in and probably not quite qualified for where I am now, but luckily I got offered a couple of jobs and we'll be moving in that direction. I'll have more announcements with that soon. But it aligns more with my passion of creating content, visual content, like I said, photography, short form storytelling, more feature length film stuff. It aligns more with that. So the why wait mindset developed in me because of that. And so I wanted to talk about, why do we wait? Why do we develop this thing in our minds of we wait for the perfect time to do things? And I've talked about that before. So often in our community, the Black community, we don't get started with things because we wait for this mythological perfect time of when it's going to align to us. And we don't always go after it. So I want to talk about the why wait mindset. Why are we waiting? So the first thing, just to talk about the positives of waiting, what are some of the good reasons to wait for certain things before you make certain moves? The number one reason why you wait is that it allows you time for your priorities to be clear. It allows you that time to because we all have things that sound good, things that we may be good at, things that we may think in our head, you know what, I want to do this. But if you do allow yourself time to wait and plan, that priority becomes clear. It allows you to prepare for that. Your priorities become clear. Number two, on why the benefits of waiting is productive habits. You allow yourself to build up productive habits that align with that goal, align with whatever it is that you're waiting for at that time. If you jump headfirst into it, you may not have that time to build those habits. And therefore, then it may not be successful. And then you're less likely to take another chance of not waiting before. So waiting helps you develop productive habits. Number 3, waiting allows you time to understand yourself, right? And so often, like, that go mentally, that could go whatever else, but it allows you to give yourself more of an understanding of why. Why do you want to do this? Why is it something that you're passionate about? Is it something that you will stay passionate about? Because just because you're passionate about it now doesn't mean you will be later. And number 4, it allows you to rest and regroup. Sometimes waiting is needed because it allows you not to bring other baggage. It allows you to not come in tired. It allows you to get rid of some of the mindsets or weariness that have developed in over your life with other things, and you don't bring that into the new thing that you're doing. Sometimes we expect that when we start something new, that it's automatically going to bring this new rush of life into us, and that can very often be true. But if you allow yourself to wait, rest, and regroup, you can make sure that you're going into it with the best mindset possible. Number 5, patience. Patience is a virtue, right? That's the cliche, but it is true. And sometimes we aren't patient enough. And then when we rush headfirst into things, it becomes this negative to us. And then we ruin an opportunity or a chance that could have been wholly positive, all because we didn't allow ourselves, or we didn't develop that patience before we went into whatever it is that we want to do. So those are the reasons why waiting can be good for you. Now let's talk about, again, let's dive into why you shouldn't wait. One of the reasons why you shouldn't wait for, and when I say wait, I'm specifically saying waiting for this magical, perfect time where everything is going to scream to you, everything is going to be aligned to you. At the end of the day, you have to go after what you want. And sometimes you don't need to wait. You need to make it a priority. You need to make those opportunities for yourself. One of the things, like always, to link back to me, just so you guys, not to boost myself, but to let you guys know that it's true. For example, for me, I didn't wait before I started hopping into this photography and thing. Like, I had a full passion for it. I didn't sit there. One of my first major purchases after I learned how to edit video and that a little bit is I bought a cinema camera, expensive ass camera. And so I didn't wait. I didn't say, well, let me go into a mid-level camera first. No, I knew at that point I wanted to do it. I dived into it. And then because of what I learned, I was able to start making money right away. But the thing is, if I waited for a perfect time, like an example for my short film, I went into making that and whatever else. But had I sat around and waited for this perfect time or this thing that was going to pop up and say, no, you needed to, this is now the time for you to start making film, I would have almost never got to it because of my responsibilities, me being a father, me being a creative, me having this full-time job. There's so many things that could have said, well, let's wait till things even back out. Let's wait till this pandemic is over. Let's wait till XYZ. But I didn't. I decided to go after. I decided to make it a mission to make my time align with that. And when you hear this thing, when I say the why wait mindset, when you listen to some of your favorite entrepreneurs, and I know some of them will tell you, well, you do this and then you do this whole process. But at the end of the day, they started their business because they had a passion for it. Or they started their business. And you don't always, let me be clear. Sometimes doing something because you know that you're good at it and then it's going to make you money, if that's what fulfills you, absolutely fucking do it. I talk a lot of things about creativity because I can't create something that I'm not passionate about. But to take that out of just the creative mindset, the creative space, if we're talking about generating revenue in a business, you don't always, a lot of people who are passionate about stuff, you think everyone who owns a coffee shop or a company are super wholly passionate about coffee that they think about? No, they knew that they could execute and they could put the pieces in place. But an entrepreneur mindset and success, sometimes you can't wait to start, especially if you're in a business. Like I said, a lot of the times I'll talk about things from a creative space because I am a creative, but especially let's say you're somebody who has a unique idea and you wait, right? The reason why the why wait mindset can help is because while you have a great idea, somebody else may come up with that same idea completely on their own and they're not going to wait for it. they are going to immediately start calling, contacting, seeing how they can bring that idea, that vision to fruition, and then they're going to execute on it. And I get it. Sometimes it's a financial liability. Sometimes, especially in our community, we don't have all the information that we need to know how to go about being entrepreneurs. But ultimately, that's part of the why waiting, is to do your research. So how many times have we all have that uncle, that family member that think, well, I thought about that years ago, years before. I didn't know nothing about getting a patent, but they didn't have the resources that we have available now. Everything is at your fingertips as far as an informational standpoint nowadays. So when we say why wait, when we talk about that why wait mindset, that's what we mean as well. Don't wait for somebody to come along and to give all the information to you or to cut you a check. Sometimes you have to go about it yourself. Whether that means that you have to do your research, whether that means that you have to get a loan because you can't finance it out your pocket, whatever that is. So often, and like I said, in our community, we wait, we pause, we slow down, we do all these other things rather than jump in. And I get it. It's scary to jump in. It's scary to think, well, what if I don't have a safety net? Then where does that leave me? All valid reasons. But even while you're building that safety net, even when I guarantee you, there is something that you can do to help you prepare and start going down that path to that journey. So when we talk about why waiting, it's time to start acting now. There's a reason why we have the intuition to do the things that we do. And the truth is that when we talk about why waiting, the why wait mindset is that, just to be blunt and be honest, the chances are you're never going to have enough money to do the entrepreneurship, the business that you want to do. There is a more of a chance that you will never have that than actually have it. So if you have an original idea, I know we hate debt in the Black community. We don't think about credit, but at the end of the day, you will never have more time than what you can make out of it. So when we talk about waiting, sometimes waiting doesn't do anything but prolong the risk that we are going to face either way. Those risks that when we dive into our passion, when we dive into entrepreneurship, when we dive into something creative, when we dive into something that we think hasn't been done before, the risks that are associated with that business or act are going to be around regardless of if you wait or do it currently. Now, sometimes that does change. That's why I talked about there are some benefits to waiting, but generally, especially if you're doing something new or what you feel is cutting edge, those same risks are always going to be around. So if you're waiting to avoid risks, you're really not. You're just prolonging those same risks that are going to affect you. The only thing you're doing is just you're mentally putting that block in your head. So sometimes you need to take that negative thought and shift that mindset to something more positive. So instead of focusing on the risk, focus on the benefits, because those risks are always going to be there one way or another, especially if you're doing something. So whether you wait for next week, whether you wait for next year, those risks very often don't change. And I know to say that in a pandemic time period is different because, for example, like me, if I quit and went to do photography full time, there are a lot less jobs right now during the pandemic. But again, I'm talking about all things being even. And keep in mind, another reason to not wait is that we assume that by waiting, every day, the next day is going to be a given, and it's not. Not to make this morbid or anything, but like, just look at it. Look at how many people we have lost in the last 2 years that had somebody told you they were going to be gone soon, you'd be like, they're too young. They got tons of life left in them. Look at Nipsey, look at DMX, look at Kobe. Before they passed away, we completely thought they had a lot more years to do more great things than what they had already done at that point. The next day is not always a given. That's just true. So when we talk about the benefits or the reasons why you should not wait, is that, again, those risks are always going to be around. Secondly, experience. Sometimes in us waiting for the perfect situation, we rob ourselves of experiences, of growth, chances and opportunities for growth, because we're sitting around, we're just waiting. We have this idea, we have this passion, we have this thought, we have this thing that we want to do, but because we're sitting around waiting on that perfect time, we're taking away experiences from ourselves that may ultimately make us not only better people, but more equipped to do the things that we are trying to do. Another thing of reasons of why not to wait is the opportunities versus distractions conversation. A lot of times we will, because we're waiting, right? Because we're waiting for this mythical opportunity, because we're waiting for this chance that may come, because we're waiting for this perfect time that we have associated in our minds are going to be what benefits us, because we're sitting there waiting, we're not waiting for our opportunity. We are creating our own distractions from opportunities that we can create for ourselves. And so that is the biggest thing with this. Like we will scream all day, and by we, I mean people, all day about if we just had that chance, if we just had this opportunity, if we just had that big break, if we just did, if whatever else. But we don't create our own opportunities, and we turn the hope of the perfect chance, of the perfect moment, and we make that a distraction. That becomes a distraction, something that's taking you away from your goal. Distractions versus opportunities. You got to learn to realize the difference. And we create our own distractions by continually waiting and waiting and waiting. So when I say, like, very often, again, in me talking about this why wait mindset, we have to make what we can make. We have to do this thing for ourselves. We have to allow ourselves the opportunity to even fail sometimes. Like, I get waiting because you're afraid that something may happen. You're afraid that something may not go right. But we rob ourselves of experiences. We rob ourselves of the chance to grow from things and to learn. Nobody is more resilient than black people. No single culture is more resilient and has gone through more shit than what we have collectively as a unit. What we have collectively as a unit. And so we have the ability to overcome so much more than we give ourselves credit for. So I ask you that because if you look at what we've been able to do, what our ancestors, what our people, what your mother, what you have done, if you really take a chance and look at things that you have done and overcome, a lot of it has been because not because you waited, but because you went ahead in first. And I'm not saying be stupid about it. I'm not saying not be educated. I'm not saying not prepare. There's a difference between prepare and waiting. You can prepare. Prepare is still forward progress. So there's no reason why we can't prepare and get rid of the fear of failing. We don't need to wait. We need to make things happen. We always talk about building generational wealth. Guess what? We're not going to be able to do that if we're sitting around trying to play it safe. So I ask you to end this episode, why are you waiting? Why are you waiting? And if you have not waited, please send in feedback. Let me know. Share your story about how not waiting ultimately benefited you in your story. So hopefully you can motivate some of the listeners of this podcast. That's been it. This has been another episode of the Awaken Soul Podcast. I love each and every one of you guys more than I can ever display or explain. And I truly mean that. You guys have saved my life and everything. And so the next episode of The Awakened Soul is going to be titled Last Call. You'll see why there. But that's it. That's all I got to say for you guys this week. Make sure you're following the podcast at Awakened Soul Pod. Make sure you're following me at CEO Haize. That's CEO Haize. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, theawakensoulpod@gmail.com. You can also leave us a voicemail at 614-547-2039. We are the #1 podcast in the world, period, point blank. If you got a problem with that, you can see me. But this is Haize, and I'm signing off. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.